be with you all again. I think I'm coming also after a while. But I think as far as focus the student ministry is concerned, I'm gone evolved through the ministry. So let me introduce myself. I'm into business. I'm into research business. So I run a research company, and then I started it in 2003. Before that, I was working for a multinational research company. And so I was staying in Sri Lanka and other part of India. And so when I started in 2003, it was, I don't know, it may be an accident or it's a situation that forced me to start the business because I was not planning to start a research business. I was comfortable with the company I was working for, and suddenly some issues came up. I just left the car key on the managing director's table and walked out. That's how. And then the clients called me and said, "We are paying so much for the brand. Why can't you start something?" And so before even thinking of, I think that's God's blessing for me. Before thinking of what to do, I had about 7 to 8 projects, about 10 projects lined up. So God opened the path, and then I started the business. Actually, that happened about 4 months before my wedding. So as I quit the job, I called my wife and I said, Subbu, and said, "See, I lost my job. Can we postpone the wedding?" That's the uncertainty. So I didn't know what to do because without the job, starting a new life, but God provided the business and He provided the opportunities and helped me to make some extra money which I wouldn't have made if I have worked for that company. And my wife is from India, Subbu is from India, so wedding took place in India and the reception in Sri Lanka, so all the finances came from this wedding. So God blessed me. So at present, I'm running this business and I'm also lecturing. And last 15 years I've been teaching. Earlier I used to teach for private and public, both state universities. Now mostly with the private, or only with the private universities. I'm also working as a consultant to a multilateral organization. So I have 3 roles that I'm playing at present. So the question of why did I choose this field? I started my career actually as a stockbroker and then moved into HR. But my passion for research actually started when I was in the uni. I think it's partly because of the influence of, I think some came from Vinod because he used to push us for reading and we started reading. I think that time the topic was how to cultivate reading habits. And then I saw some of the works done by, I think, Amal's work, Karsha's work, and all of that created interest. I think when I was in the final year, Arsha was in the department also doing some work, and he got me involved in a project, I think, on education, right? Was it? Yeah, we were doing a sampling and all of that, so I had to work with census and statistics department, all of that. But the reason which made me to grow like a researcher, that although it's my profession, I have to get into that, was the kind of the challenges or the training we received during the student days and through focus mainly because questioning things. So fortunately for us at that time, no internet and no mobile phones. Whenever, and the universities, this is right after the JVP insurrection. So then the universities was closed for 2 years. That's the time I worked for the stockbroking firm. And after that, every time, very frequently there used to be some problem. The university used to be closed, and our next sanctuary is like the focus office. We go and sit there, read books. I think once I undertook the assignment of rearranging the library. Me and another friend called Shehan Williams, he's a professor in psychiatry. So we both together started arranging the focus library at St. Joseph's Road, I think once south. And so that made me to see the types of books and created the greediness for knowledge. I call it greediness because now I have my own library with about 500 books in my study room. So still accumulating, and my Subo is complaining when I going to stop that. Right? So that's how I started. But I had the desire in business. So that made me to do a parallel course on CIM while doing. I was doing the degree. So the interested in brands and the business, how people grow in business made me to think. So I think I can't remember. Um, after a student camp, I was talking to somebody. I can't remember. Maybe weekly, I think, about doing business. So he challenged me. That time, Weekly was doing a business. I think he was running his clothing shop, and he said, "No, there is not enough Christian businessmen. Why don't you think about it?" So that made me some interest. So I started, and the knowledge, stuff for knowledge also made me running around, because running on this field of I've been running this business for, I started in 2003. So still I'm continuing, and there's one self-satisfaction, because I'm at any given time I'm involved in multiple industries. Now, for an example, as of the last 2 months, I worked on IT infrastructure, like looking into IT projects and system integration and various vertical. And opposite to that, I also worked on, I've been working on a soap project to develop the product with the client. And soap project and the sanitary napkin project, some on education improvement and designing a case study for ACCA to run a competition among the companies and universities. So all of them. So what I'm doing is I'm contributing a lot to these businesses to grow better, to see insights, or for them to get asymmetric information about the marketplace so that they can thrive, which contribute profits for their growth, and they sustain their businesses and so on. And I also identify opportunities for businesses for them to grow, enter into new markets. Now, one example is all of you all know your water tank, right? Plastic water tank. This happened about 20 years back when the plastic water tank was introduced, and there were about 6 or 7 players. So Esloan was my client, and they said, "We want to enter, find us something unique avenue for us to enter into the market." So I did a massive study. Then figure it out, people were having problem with the plastic tanks, and they are about to go back to the cement tanks. I don't know how many of you all know concrete water tank. It was built to the next to the well. It had a problem because if there's a crack, people had to uh, demolish and reconstruct, and so various other issues. So when I did the study, I found all the existing plastic tanks didn't have a lid. A simple thing, for the people to get in and clean. Everyone are complaining about it, and they said, when we have bath, this passy kind of plants tend to fall on our body. It's disgusting. How can we have bath? Came back to the client. Went back to the client and said, "Can we do this?" They said, "Yeah, we can," because still we didn't get the mold, the engines, the machines. So they did it. They launched it. The PE plus water tank was launched, and they became market leader immediately. But unfortunate thing is, other players couldn't afford the change. They were, they were basically had to leave the market. But some people came back. Others, few of them, they sold the business. So what I'm doing is I'm helping the business to to identify new avenues to grow and expand. So like that, I sometimes I feel little self glorification because if you name any category, I have done a study. I mean, last 35 years I'm in the field, every categories. I was just talking to someone, and normally I tell this to my students that's the opportunity God has given. And yesterday I was telling during the lunchtime with somebody, I covered the entire Sri Lanka 7 times, except for Siripal. Interior of, because that opportunity going to villages, understanding people, understanding their life, how they manage, what are some of the remote, particular unique food of that area. Probably I would have tasted all. So that understanding, insight, interaction with people, it's a great opportunity. It's a blessing by God for me to be here. So, and also we provide by running the business. I think any given time if a project is on, but 30 to 40 enumerators tend to work, and so that means there's a livelihood support, and there are about 10 permanent staff in my office, and their livelihood is also covered. So we try to generate revenue for us as well as others. So that helps a lot. And the self glorification I was talking, sometimes there was one study I remember, we did it about a year back. Largest study, it's a political study, like 75,000 samples. It's a massive, like covered the entire country, and for about 500 odd people worked on that project. Average, each one would have earned about 30,000 to 40,000 per month on the project. It ran for about 3 months. So like, so then, so when how do we transform the society? Is we become I think through this business and the insights that we provide, we are helping others to grow. And through that growth that growth is reflected in better growth of the economy and the business. Apart from that, I also share my knowledge with various other activities. Like I was involved in grooming female entrepreneurs. Like I worked with an NGO, and they identified about 150 people, recipients of the benefits, and then worked with them on a series of training, and we filtered and eventually worked with about 10 people to build their business. So that's, and when they came and said they learned a lot and they are going to implement, and later when they call time to time and ask some ideas and suggestions, that gives a lot of sense of accomplishment, because I feel God is using to transform some people's life. But it's not an easy thing. Sometimes we have to face a lot of challenges as an entrepreneur. There was a time I used to get up in the morning without knowing what to do next. No business, no money in hand, what to do next. And lost a lot of money, gained a lot of money. And there was some time I had to mortgage all of Subbu's jewelry to get the business going. So I couldn't get the jewelry back because I think at the time I mortgaged it was 72,000 or something. Within 6 months, the value went up to some 170. So some of are traditional jewels, like passed on to by grandmother and so on. So, but we were part of the business. I learned something, that how not to have emotional attachment with some of your work that you do. How to distance yourself from the business. God took a bit of a rough road to teach me that. And so that happened. Even now we face, suddenly clients don't pay me on time. There's delays. And as of now, there is a client who cheated us with, they paid most of the payment and they need to settle $14,000. Still the money has not come. Problem is the client is from India. It says a political related study, so that uh, they got the payment through it, because normally political research studies are done like that. And for us, fighting to get that money is a huge and long route, very difficult. So that money is gone. Right. So that's one of the challenges. There was another challenge I had, I tried to help another fellow church member to get into the business, and I found an investor. So that's actually that person happened to be my brother-in-law's brother-in-law. That's my brother-in-law's sister's husband. He invested 2.7 million. Now business didn't take off the ground, and when I asked for money, that person is pretending as if I'm basically pressurizing him and disturbing him in his day-to-day life by asking the money. So we pay out of our savings, settlement, right? So that sometimes puts us in the sleepless night. But God is good. God is there. Peace is there. Opportunities came. God sustaining me through assignment that I do with the multilateral organization and my teaching. So life get going, and still we manage. We didn't cut down the stuff we are keeping, and sometimes we don't. We are now just gone into an individual ownership to 3-member ownership. So we decided not to take any returns for the time being until we rebuild everything. But it's interesting because your life is on the faith, right? So, but God gave a lot of opportunity. During the Aragalaya time, there was a huge power cuts and business were down. And what happened now? My friend, next door neighbor, small boy, not small, he's also 30 years old. Uh, we were talking about various issues, and we were trying to, he's good in electronic works and things like that. So we tried to develop a small inverter for us, especially for me to do the online teaching. And then we identified some market opportunities. We did inverter business during the Aragalaya time, and that sustained us. So God gave us these insights to see opportunities even during the trouble times. So that way, COVID, COVID time, the entire country was shut down. So we didn't know what to do. So we are paying the staff the salary. Suddenly we are sitting on a huge database that in our organization. So we did a study called Citizens Plus. We did it on, through telephone interviews, got the staff to call we did the sampling, and because we had such a massive database, we did that. Citizen Pulse became a kind of a talk of the town at that time. Media started voting and all of that, and we got business immediately from UNICEF and a couple of other multinational organizations to a study. So we initiated it. We initiated to educate the public, what public think about COVID and whether they see the risk of it and all of that. Government so that and utilize, see this is the awareness level, they want to do something and so on. But it turned out to be an opportunity. And but on the other side, when you are known and if you are running a entrepreneur, because my problem at the moment is developing a secondary level leadership, still struggling. So people still associate me with the company, and the clients expect me to personally get involved with the project and see what it is and so on. So that struggle gives the struggle. So with that, our journey goes on. So God helps, protects the way, shows the way, or shows small windows of opportunities, and life continues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahen, for sharing your story of how you have integrated research